Did you know Super Awesome Mix has an app? Go to the Apple App Store today and download Super Awesome Mix. It's free. You could start creating and sending your own digital mixtapes in just a few clicks. Also, there's links to our Instagram account and a link where you can follow your favorite podcast. Speaking of which, welcome back to another Super Awesome Mix. My name is Matt Sidholm, alongside my co-host and co-founder of Super Awesome Mix, Samer Abu Salbi. Samer, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing really well. Can you believe that we are at the end of season 1 with this episode?
This is incredible. How many episodes is this now? How many mixes have we put together?
I believe this is 37, number 37.
Lucky number 37. Yep.
Right. We wanted to make sure we ended on a nice, a sensical number.
Well, strangely, I don't know how I remember this, but on my cable system growing up, channel 37 was VH1. So that's
nice.
Very appropriate. And that was back when VH1 played music and not just reality shows. So
novel.
So it was a very novel channel at the time. But
what's so
very
funny
appropriate here.
I feel like there are channels, and certainly YouTube channels, that now just play music videos, and people are like, wow, that's amazing. Like, just come right back to it.
Well, I always joke that the next bundle is going to be, I'm going to take all these streaming services and bring them all together for one price, and I'm going to call it cable.
Well, there's $1 billion idea
and
right
we're
there.
Just going to come full circle, people. Okay? One big, gigantic circle. We're going to break it apart and then put it back together. Yep.
I call it Time Warner.
I'm going to open a store where you can rent one movie for one night for 99 cents. And then you have to bring it back to me or I'm going to charge you more money. That's a new store I just thought of. Okay, look for that, people. 2022.
That's good. That's a blockbuster idea right there. Anyway.
Good times. Well, yeah, Samer mentioned this is our last new episode of 2021. So we're going to be back the first week of January with new mixes, and in 2022 we've got new guests and all sorts of new fun for you guys, and we can't wait for season 2. But thank you guys so much for listening up to this point, and today we're going to present what we feel is the best of 2021.
Yes, easily, and I mean, yeah, without question, the hardest mix of the year for me. Of everything that I spent a lot of time thinking about, I usually kind of start by dragging a bunch of songs into a playlist and then working my way down, to our like six picks each. And this was so hard to bring it down to just 6. I mean, it was almost felt cruel, as some of our guests have said, to force me to do that, because there's been so much great music. And this has been so fun about this podcast is just really getting to music again and discovering just how magical of a world it is to follow music.
Yeah, and it's been so fun to just listen to an album beginning to end, just for research purposes, right? In addition, in preparation for some of these mixes, someone would put on a band I've never heard before, and I would listen to the song they picked, then just kind of do a deep dive into that band and just listen to a whole album. And I know Spotify just eliminated its shuffle button from the album playlists. And
thanks, Adele.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Adele, right? I mean, talk about some power in the music industry if you can make that happen. But I think that's, I agree with her, though. I like the idea of an artist kind of putting together an album and then you kind of listening to the album from beginning to end. But, obviously what we do here is we're just picking and choosing songs. But I do encourage people to go back and listen to the albums, and you'll probably hear me say that more than once about some of the songs we've picked today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was ultimately what kind of helped me make my picks, is I weighed it against, the album, basically. So it wasn't necessarily just that they had like a single I really liked. It was, I listened to this album over and over and over again, or I listened to multiple songs off of it. And that's what kind of helped me get it down to the 6. So with that, let's kick it off. Track one is your pick, and it is "The End of the Game" by Weezer.
Yeah, so Weezer actually put this album together, I think in 2020, and they were going to do a huge arena tour around the album called Van Weezer. And obviously, COVID hit, so that tour didn't happen. So they held off releasing this until this year. And they also released another album called, I think, OK Human. But this one was just, I mean, it was designed to be an 80s, almost like an 80s tribute album. But they didn't just redo 80s songs, they kind of did songs in the style of 80s bands. And this is the opening track. And I mean, just from the jump, this just takes me back to so many 80s rock songs, but it also just sounds like Weezer. And I think this
Mm-hmm.
whole album is just kind of amazing in that way. So if you are a fan of any number of 80s bands, I think you're going to hear this, and it's got a real nostalgic feel, but it's also very new. And I mean, just a fantastic effort by them.
Isn't it amazing that you can, like, this is what I love about certain bands, that they really do develop an iconic sound, and it's like it's hard to kind of put your finger on, like, why does Weezer sound like Weezer and why does, whoever sound like whoever, but you listen to it and you're like, yes, like this sounds like Weezer covering a bunch of like 80s bands, obviously like in the style of like Van Halen and all these other like, glam rock and things like that, but yeah, they bring like their signature sound to it, and I just think it's amazing. It's a really good pick. It's a great album.
Yeah, that's definitely one worth checking out. And OK Human is pretty good too, but it's a little bit more straightforward, low key Weezer. This is a lot more fun album, so I'd recommend starting with this one. Now, speaking of fun, your first pick is by AJR, and it is OK Overture.
Yeah, it's funny. This is also an opening track off of their album, um, but off of probably my most played album of the year, which is why I put it as my first pick, because it is such a creative album, and truly such a creative opening track to an album. Because if you watch the music video, it actually shows you what song they're kind of like pulling from as they go through all the different songs of the album in this one song. I'm in the style of an overture, so you're literally getting a preview of like what's to come in the album in this, in the opening track. But they do it so seamlessly and like effortlessly and creatively that it's on its own is an incredible song. And like they have so much fun on it's three brothers from New York. They have so much fun in this album, you can kind of tell. But and there are a lot of earworms on it. Like I have sung this song, or not this song, but songs from this album in my head over and over and over again. So this one was probably my favorite album of the year, and why it's my first pick.
Yeah, you said fun more than once in that statement, and that's what I
Yes,
think. Like AJR is just they really do a good job of conveying how much fun they're having in their music, and
I agree.
you can definitely this definitely comes through. This one, after it kept going and changing and doing so many different things, it started to remind me of Electric Light Orchestra, because if you go
Oh,
back to
nice.
like ELO songs, it's similar in the way they change, and you're kind of looking down. It's like, are we still on the same song? And just the way they change styles throughout their music. So I thought this was something that ELO could have done. And yeah, just a great pick. This is definitely one I'm going to be listening to a lot in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you liked it. All right, track three. We got Bobby and the Rat Kings by the Counting Crows.
Yeah, Counting Crows, new music this year. They did a little
Amazing.
four-song EP called Butter Miracle Sweet One. And this one, all four songs are pretty good, pretty strong efforts by them. But I picked this one just because of the lyrics and the storytelling. I mean, if you've listened to a lot of our shows this year, you know I'm kind of a big fan of that style of music, like stuff that really tells a good story and does it in a unique way. Um, and when I was researching this song in particular to kind of find some of the meaning and stuff behind it, one critic compared it to an old Bruce Springsteen song. So I thought, wow, well, Springsteen
Perfect.
didn't come up with any new music, so I couldn't plug that into the mix. But yeah, here's a song that I guess reminded some critics of him. But no, I mean, just the sound is very classic Counting Crows. So
It
if
is.
you loved them before, you're gonna like the sound of this one. But I just love this one and kind of the story they tell about, being a fan of a band and kind of following this band around, and it's just kind of a neat story. So worth checking out. But yeah, new Counting Crows, very very good effort.
Yeah, I remember, we have a newsletter that you can actually subscribe to, and Matt and I every week will pick the song of the week that like we've had on repeat that whole week, kind of what's like the dominating song. And one of the weeks, actually, Matt, you picked this, one of the songs off of this new album, and you literally wrote "New Counting Crows." Wow! So that's what this reminds me of. And I went and listened to it, and it was really good. I liked it a lot.
All right, so your next track, Heat Above by Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah, this is another song that I listen to just over and over and over again. This and Broken Bells off of this same album, and they are basically like, I don't want to say they're a Led Zeppelin cover band, but they are certainly like, it sounds like a modern Led Zeppelin, let's say. Um, and I love that kind of rock has been going through this kind of revival period, and there are actually a number of bands now that kind of take. I have to imagine they grew up, listening to bands like Zeppelin and AC/DC and like all these, classic rock bands, and they find now their kind of modern flavor on it and are producing really great music, and this is certainly one of them. So I love the song. I love that they sound like Zeppelin, but different enough to where I can really enjoy it. And this is certainly one of my go-tos this year. I've really really loved listening to these guys.
So I've always heard the comparisons to Led Zeppelin, and those are not unfounded. But when I heard this song and he starts singing, I immediately thought of Rush. I thought his voice
Mm,
sounded exactly like Geddy Lee from Rush, and I was like,
that's a good one.
man, that is right there with him vocally. And I didn't know if that was intentional because I know their first songs were very much more aligned with like the sound and style of Led Zeppelin. So I don't know if they're just sort of working their way through a classic rock catalog, but
Sure.
I thought in this case, I mean, it's a great song. Like, so if you do like classic rock, but want something new, I think you're really gonna love this. But yeah, I thought it had more of a Rush feel to it this time with what he was doing with his voice.
That's a really apt comparison. I hadn't even considered that, but the second you said it, I was like, yes, of course. I could definitely see that. Yeah, that's great. So, yes, great album. Check that one out. Um, let's go on to track 5, and we've got the Wallflowers. Amazing. Also producing new music, and you picked Roots and Wings off of their latest album.
Yeah, so this completes my triumvirate of 90s artists who put out albums in 2021.
Yeah, amazing.
So Weezer, Counting Crows, now the Wallflowers. So Wallflowers, I have been in on them like from the beginning, and obviously the beginning they had the massive hit with One Headlight, still gets radio play now. But I think they've put out so many great albums since then, and I think I'm probably the only person listening to their stuff. I don't know. If you're out there and you're like, no, I still listen to the Wallflowers too, then definitely let us know that. I'd love to hear from you. But so they had a new album this year, and I thought this was their most country sounding album that they've had. Like they've always been pretty rock, pretty low key acoustic kind of stuff, but this one sounded more country than any of their previous work, and almost a little. This song in particular had a Jackson Brown feel to it as well. But yeah, I mean their whole album I think is really good, and listen to all their stuff really since Bringing Down the Horse, that debut album that was such a big hit. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But even with this new stuff, I think it's got a real cool feel to it.
Yeah, I definitely think this is one of those bands that's like worth a dive into the catalog beyond just the, like you mentioned, the One Headlight song that is absolutely like a huge one hit wonder. A lot of people would probably consider that to be a one hit wonder, but like we discussed on that mix earlier this year, oftentimes these bands have a lot more to offer than just that. So Wallflowers is definitely one of them. I think that they're just like they're a solid band. Like you can enjoy the music that they put out, and this is certainly one of those cases.
Yeah, so track 6, halfway mark here, we go with Limbo by Royal Blood.
Yeah, another song that was actually on my wake up mix this year. And this one and another song off the album called "Trouble's Coming." I would just play as like my amp up, get up in the morning and start moving mix. Royal Blood and this album in particular kind of reminds me of like Muse in a way, in the sense that it's like that electronic like rock mashup.
Yeah.
That's becoming pretty popular too, as like, the rock sound kind of morphs and mashes up with like modern electronic things. So great album if you're kind of into that, or you want to explore that sound some more. I just think this album is the kind that I would put on. I would crank up the volume and just really kind of rock out to it, start to finish. And there wasn't many times that I would skip songs. And Limbo and Trouble's Coming are two of my favorites off of them, if you want an introduction to their sound.
Yeah, I was not familiar with Royal Blood, but about 30 seconds into the song, my first note just said, "This song kicks ass." Like, I was like, this is an awesome
Awesome.
song. Yeah, just really great rock song, but also had a little bit of a disco feel to it almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something going on. Maybe that's that electronic feel that you were talking about. I think Muse is a really good comparison to these guys, but I'm looking forward to listening to more of their stuff. But yeah, just this song alone will get you fired up.
Yeah, they are really good at that. That's awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, track 7 is this made me really happy that you put this on here, but it's one of our recent guests, Mega Ran, and it's off of his new album Live 95 that we discussed whenever we had him on the show, specifically the song Comeback Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's right. One of our podcast guests had a new album in 2021. I mean, it had to make the mix, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So this is a song that if you listen to that episode, we kind of talked about this one and referenced this one because it's the one where he says, 3 verses or so 2006, short
Yeah.
raps for the win. And like I said on the show, if you love the NBA and you're about my age, I mean, this album's just right up your alley. So he makes so many great references, and he's just a good rapper. I mean, he's just very good at what he does. So even if you don't necessarily get all the references, I think you'll have a lot of fun listening to this album. And I think this is a fun song, and also gets you fired up, because like comeback player of the year, talks about, making a comeback and bouncing back from things. So also a little inspirational. So nice work, Rand.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, so much fun having him on the show. And hopefully we'll have him back when his next album drops. I'm sure he'd be happy to do that.
Exactly. All right, track 8, your next pick. You went with Spirit by the Blue Stones.
Yes. Again, I keep repeating it. Another album I had on repeat all year long. This one in particular, I can't think of a song where I don't play it. Like, there were no skips on this album for me. If you like the Black Keys, then you will feel right at home listening to the Blue Stones.
That's exactly the note I made listening to these guys. I had never heard of them, but I was like, they sound like the Black Keys.
Yes, yeah.
That's so weird.
They do sound, yeah. And I think, so it's funny, I had to imagine that their name, might be a riff on that a little bit, like the Black Keys, so they went with the Blue Stones.
Oh, right.
However, the other thought that I had walking my dog, because I randomly have dog, like dog walking thoughts in the same vein as like shower thoughts, was because their sound is like bluesy rock, like inspired, like you
Yeah.
kind of hear like bluesy. I was like the Blue Stones, the blues tones, and I wondered if maybe like the blues tones.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought you were going to go in like a bluesy Rolling Stones direction, but then I'm like, they're already kind of bluesy, so I wasn't sure how much more bluesy you can make them, but blues tones. That's
Tones,
interesting.
yeah, the Blue Stones, the blues tones, yeah. So I wondered if that's kind of where their name came from. We'll have to have them on the show to ask them.
You know what that explanation reminds me of? Have you seen the movie That Thing You Do?
Uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
how their
The
original
Oneidas.
band name, their original band name was The Wonders, but it was Oneders.
Right.
And everyone kept pronouncing it the Oneders. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, the Oneders. And then Tom Hanks becomes their manager. He's like, no, we're going to spell it so people can pronounce it, so people know who you are. So I kind of thought of that here. If they were like, no, we're the Blues Tones. And like someone just came in and was like, look, we're calling you the Blue Stones and we're moving on Okay.
It's gonna be easier to market. Fun fact: that's actually why Led Zeppelin spelled their name LED, because literally he was quoted to have said that like he thought Americans were quote too thick to have and not call them Lead Zeppelin.
And I am both insulted and impressed by that statement. Okay?
Right.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Yep.
Not wrong. I love Lead Zeppelin. Oh, so good.
Lead Zeppelin. Oh my gosh. So many great hits.
Awesome. All right. Track 9. We've got Venom, the remix by Eminem.
Yeah, so he put out the original version of the song, I guess, when the first Venom movie came out. It's from the Marvel movie Venom. Mm-hmm. And then there was a new Venom movie this year called Let There Be Carnage. And he put out this remix. And I didn't even know this song came out with the original Venom movie, although that's a really fun movie if you haven't seen that. I didn't see the sequel, but I did stumble upon this song. And I was like, this is a pretty awesome song. Venom's a really fun kind of anti-hero type comic character. So it's not the type of movie I'm going to let my kids watch, at least not at this age. You know, let them stick to Spider-Man and stuff like that.
Sure.
But then, but yeah, Venom, it's a fun movie. It's really cool. It's super violent. And so who better than Eminem to write the theme song to
it? Yeah. I really, really love Eminem's work. Like he was on some Logic albums that I got really into Logic this year as another rapper. And there was like a song with Logic and Eminem, and Logic has his verses, and then all of a sudden Eminem comes on, and it's just like, oh my God, his rapping is just something else. Like he's really talented. He's a very talented musician. And so any of his songs are just like, anytime I hear his music, I just want to throw it on like a gym mix or like a run really hard mix or something, because they just have that power to like amp you up and get you going.
No, that's immediately what I did. I heard this song and I started like a new workout mix, and this was track one. Yeah. So no, I'm right there with you. Okay. So speaking of something that's probably not in a workout mix, but definitely worthy of being on a mix, we've got Interior People by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
I'm going to go ahead and repeat that because it's so much fun to say. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Such a great name. Such a great name.
It's just an amazing band name. I think if we maybe next year in season 2 we'll do like a super awesome mix awards, and you know, we'll have most unique band name or something. I would have awarded it to these guys
easily. Or the Blues Tones if they change their name.
Right.
Only if they change their name.
Only if they change it, though. That's a prereq. So this is a new discovery for me this year, like at all. I hadn't didn't know about this group, and then got introduced to them. To be honest, I cannot exactly remember how, but I'm glad that I did, and I loved this album. I describe it as like, if you're familiar with Postal Service and like the Decemberists, it's like they got together and created this sound, because it's like, it's kind of strange, it's kind of electric, or electronic, and it's weird and fun and great and just so unique. And I don't know, I listened to this album over and over and over again. I really, really loved it. So check this. This is my favorite song off of the album, though, hands down. But this is definitely one of those ones where it's really nice to listen to it start to finish, because the music does kind of like, you know, blend into each other really well as you do so.
And just on the name of the artist alone, I think they're worth a listen, right? I mean, come on.
For sure.
Give these guys a chance. But they're an Australian rock band, and I was so glad that you picked an Australian band for the best of mix, because 2 of our favorite guests from this year were from Australia. We had 2 guests from across the globe join us this year, Tyler Jenke and Cassie Walker. So yeah, I thought that was a great pick for that reason too.
You know, and now that I think about it, I'm willing to bet it's because of, since we had Tyler on way earlier in the show, around the time that I started listening to this, it might be thanks to him that I got introduced to these guys. So thank you, Tyler. Great guest. And then of course we had Cassie Walker later in the show, who was another amazing guest, and we have to have her on to learn more about her New Kids on the Block cruise. I still have so many questions.
Yeah, Cassie, if you're listening, like not long after that show, my wife, like not the episode hadn't even come out, and she put a New Kids on the Block concert on like our family calendar next year. So she's going to go see New Kids on the Block. So maybe, I mean, I've got to talk to you before then to kind of get some background stories or something leading up to that. So
I like it.
yeah,
I like it. All right. Well, speaking of groups that are just blowing up these days, like boy bands that are just off the charts, you've got a BTS track for track 11, and you went with Butter, but specifically the holiday remix of Butter.
So BTS made our international mix, and obviously they're mega famous. But the reason this made Best of 2021 because they had such a massive hit with Dynamite, and so what do you do the next year to kind of top that or rival that? But they kind of did it with Butter. And
Right.
just for fun, I threw the holiday mix version on here, but obviously the original, I mean, isn't all too dissimilar from this one. But yeah, this is such a fun song. It's gonna put you in a great mood. You don't even have to be a fan of like K-pop or anything. I think it's just it's a great song.
Oh, I mean, they are pop geniuses, truly.
They are.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm in awe of like their ability to produce a song that gets as much playtime as it does, that is hard to hate. Like you love it. Like and even if you say you don't like their songs, like I really question, are you just saying that? Because it's impossible to not love their songs. They're so catchy. I also really appreciated that they did like a holiday version of this
Right.
by literally
Yeah.
just like replacing a little bit of the sound with like some jingle bells. Like,
See, and that's impressive
absolute
too.
brilliance.
It's like, wait,
It
no, this
is.
is pretty good. I'm into this. Yeah, and not a
I know,
straight
because
just Christmas song. It's just like, yeah,
exactly.
let's just let's a little sprinkle of holiday on it. That's
I
all.
I almost want that treatment for like my entire music library. I want like System of a Down, but with jingle bells instead of hard guitar.
See, that might be okay. Let's put that on the shelf with our idea to rent a movie for one night for 99 cents.
Yes.
Got a
Some
lot of
great
ideas in the
ideas.
hopper. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I wanted to end the season like with some cliffhangers, to get people to come back for season 2. So we might be working on this stuff in between seasons.
That's a
You
great
never
point.
know.
And we had some movie
Yeah.
ideas and I think a
Right.
musical. I mean, we threw out a lot of ideas. So which ones will come to
We
fruition in season 2?
Yeah, tune in to find out.
Yeah, you're going to have to. But we've got one more song before we get to season 2.
We
Okay,
do.
so this is your last pick. And it is My Life by J. Cole, 21 Savage, and Moray.
Yes, I wanted to pick a hip hop song because it's another genre that I love, but I tend to lean really heavily on rock and it's not the only genre of music I listen to. I try to listen to a lot of it.
Except
So
country.
it was
Except country.
I was gonna say except country, but I got introduced to some country songs
Yeah,
this year
yeah, yeah. Okay.
that I liked. I tolerated. But let's talk about J. Cole. So there were a number of hip hop albums that came out this year that were really good. I think this is my favorite one of all of them because it's just again an album I could listen to start to finish. There's a lot of amazing collaborations on this. The lyrics are fantastic, and the rapping is really good, and just like the beats are good. And yeah, it's an incredible album. So if you haven't listened to it, certainly give it a chance. Give it a play, start to finish, and hopefully you like it as much as I did.
Yeah, this is a cool song. I mean, it's a little low key, but I like it's very optimistic, right? It's very, I'm coming
Hmm.
up. This is my time, my life, all that. And, shout out to Megaran. This is a short rap, right? Short raps for
Yes,
the win. I
short
think,
raps for the win. Exactly. And I wanted to go like I could have put like a Drake song here because obviously he had a new
yeah.
album. Tyler the Creator had like a really impressive album. But I wanted
Kanye
to
West at one point, like there was a
right.
couple. I was like,
Oh my
should
gosh.
that? You talked at the beginning of how difficult this was to put together, and I think out of the 6 songs, I think 5 of them were different, like the first time through, and then I
Right.
just replaced all of them and did something totally different. So yeah,
Yeah, it's tough.
it's
A
tough.
lot of really good music this year. A lot of great music.
So there you have it. Okay, another super awesome mix for your collection, and the last new super awesome mix for your collection in 2021. So thank you so much for listening, and please tell a friend, leave a review. That would be a great Christmas gift to us if you did that for us. But either way, just keep listening yourself, and we will take that. But thank you again to everyone. Thanks to our sponsors, and thank you to Sammer for putting up with me through 37 episodes so far, and more to come.
Absolutely, more to come. Thank you so much, everyone, for going on this journey with us. We wouldn't do this without you. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to making more mixes with all of you in 2022. So have a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate. Have a wonderful New Year. Be safe, and we will see you in the new year.
We will see you then. Yes, indeed. Super Awesome Mix is brought to you by DLM. Make shopping easy with DLM, the one-stop shop for all your casual clothing needs. Shop dlmsupplyco.com and enter the promo code AWESOME at checkout to save 15% off your first purchase. That's dlmsupplyco.com.